On many occasions, you will need to manipulate data in your table. This could be adding a row, updating a row, or even deleting all of the records from your table. In this session, we're going to use a practical example to showcase how to do all of these actions via code. To get started, we're going to have a look at DataMiner on how the end result looks. So we're having a look at the practical example. So here we can see an implementation with a table. It has orders. This could be a list of all the articles you have ordered. And on this side, we can manipulate some items. So we can say, I would like to order, for instance, tea. Let's select it and indicate we just want to have one, and we will add that article. The purpose of this example is that when we add an article, it will list it up into our orders, and it has some time indication. This is when we clicked on our button. This is when we ordered our tea. I could add something else. Let's add some coffee. Maybe we want to have 2 coffees and add this article, and we can see we have 2 coffees here. Another thing we would like to do is clear up a record. So maybe I don't want my tea anymore. Let's remove this record from our table. We also included a button to quickly add one of each. What is one of each? It would be a tea, coffee, soup. Let's hit the button and we see we have one of each with our time record of clicking on that button. We can also remove specific articles. We can see we have 2 coffees. Imagine I would like to remove all of the articles of coffee. Then we will select coffee and delete all these articles. And all that is left is tea and soup. As a last action, we would like to remove every record from the table, and we have clear orders. We can add a bit more stuff. This will clear up our entire table. So this is showing some basic actions that we can take or manipulate our table. To know how we do this, we need to jump into the code. So let's open up our Visual Studio. I already have it open and connect to my testing system. I'm connected. I will select the course example, open it up, and here we have our protocol already. Now, when you get started, you can use the template to generate a protocol. You can go to File, New, you can create a new protocol solution, or you can go to the DataMiner template itself and select your protocol. This will already generate your skeleton with some basic instructions available. Now, to explain the different items that we have, let's collapse our code and have a look at what is in there. We have the part where we can add articles to our order. So this is a button, and we will have some extra parameters to indicate our selection. We also have the deleting part. This will make sure that we have the delete button available. And we have the delete all, so clearing everything in our table. Most importantly is our table. This is our orders table. It has multiple columns. One of them I want to highlight is the time. What's a time? It is, in our case, a numeric value. Internally, we will keep it as a number. Why? Because this could be located on any region. Your regional settings could change. You could showcase something with year, month, day, or even the days, month, year. I basically do not care. Internally, I will keep track of this as a number. Not just any number, we will use an OA date. This is a standard. We can easily use this in our C#, but this will make sure that when we use our date time feature, it will look into your regional settings and showcase that value as you are used to see it. To make sure that we don't have any rounding issues, we will need to make sure that that date time is using 8 decimals internally, but also externally. Internally, this is for your protocol. Know what this value is. Externally, display, this is for any other component to know. Imagine that we want to retrieve this information via an automation script. Well, we will receive a number. When we receive that number, we don't want to have any rounding issues as well. So that's why we will have decimals on the display, and we will have our decimals in our internal definition as well. So both in our protocol and our logic, quick action logic, we don't want to have rounding issues with that OA date standard. And externally, we also do not want to have that rounding problem. Very simple rule, as soon as you use a datetime feature to display it as a datetime using your regional settings, we will define decimals internally and externally. Now that's enough for the datetime. Let's focus on the purpose of the session, which was manipulating your table. Let's start with the adding articles. So we have a button here, adding an article or adding something to our orders list. Let's jump to the quick action. Open it up. Let's just save it here. When we open it up, we will see our C# code, and it has some basic instructions. Now, let's not worry about the design just yet. We're just going to focus on how to manipulate it in the table itself. So we can see here when we have selected adding something, we will add an article. Let's jump to that method, and we can find something called orders quick action row. What is this? This is a helper. This will take your definition. Let's jump to the definition again. We will take our table definition and create a helper to easily add a row in there. So our table contains all of these columns, and it has an extra column with just a button, so I don't need to add data in there, it's just a button. But this will be available in my helper. So you can see my different columns here, so I can easily create one specific row. In this use case, I'm clicking a button. I have selected what I want to do. I want to add a coffee, a tea, and how many of these items I want. So I can easily add a unique identifier. This will be my primary key. I can add the article that I have selected, the number of articles I have selected, and as you can see here, I can add my timestamp. I will use the current timestamp and translate this to an OA date standard. Remember, this is a number. So in our protocol, when we would open it up, we will have a parameter which is a number, and we will display it as a datetime. And this datetime will be based on your regional settings. So never use a string or format it yourself. Use that number, use that OA date, so it can be used anywhere around the world. This helper, very easy to change, update, create your record, but we still need to add it in our table. So how do we add it? Well, there are 2 different ways. And you can even see them already here, 2 different ways. I can use the standard protocol definition. What is a standard? You can find this here. As soon as you open up a quick action, you will always have the link to SL protocol. This is your link to the data at runtime, which is running in your protocol. So protocol process. You can see that this is my data, my current data. So you can use the methods available in the standard. This is the exist. I will add a row, I will set a row, or you could say I'm going to use the extended. I will jump into these items in a bit. I can use the extended. This will make my table available in my protocol. If I would create another table, well, it will use that name. It's again that helper getting active. I will have another table here as well. So I can find protocol.myTableName and then do something with that table. Let's first focus on the standard. On the standard, I do not have my table, so I need to pass it along. I will pass along the table that I want to manipulate. In this case, it's my parameters orders table ID. Don't use magic numbers. It's easier to read to use this helper on parameters orders. This is my table, and I want to get the table ID. The first thing I wanted to do was adding something. So I'm going to add a row to what table? To this table, and I'm going to add this specific row. Keep in mind, this is my helper to pass it along to protocol. It's a set of items in an object, so an object array. So I have to make sure that I pass it along as an object array. Now this is just adding a row. I could be adding the same item over and over and over again, so I have to make sure that I check, does it exist? Now in this example, I'm always creating a unique identifier, so I would always add a new item. But just as an example, we can verify if an item already exists, a specific primary key already exists. If it doesn't, I will add a row. If it does, I will set a row. This is updating it. So I will update a row. What row? Well, the one with this specific primary key, and I will add it again with my row that I have, my helper. I can use it and add it to or set it to an object array. So you can see that this is already quite a lot of lines of code. And when we look at the extended, well, we can make it very easy to just say set that row. If it doesn't exist, then create it. That's what this Boolean does. If this row does not yet exist, what row? Well, the row with this primary key. If it doesn't exist, just add it. If it does, update it. Extended methods make manipulation with tables way easier. Just know it exists. If you need to know if a row exists, well, you can always use the protocol.exist. Even when you're using the extended method, it's available. That's adding a specific row. We also had a button to add one of each. So we want to add multiple items. So let's have a look on the add one of each method. I'm going to, again, split things up into using the standard or the extended. Let's first look into the standard. The idea is that we have our orders list and I want to add items in there. And I want to append my table with one of each of the articles. So I can create a list, again, of my object arrays. This is the standard. I'm just going to pass along different rows. In each cell will be an object in there. Well, I'm going to make sure that I fill it up, maybe just for information. Let's quickly go in here. We have our order again, and for each type of order, I'm going to create this or use this helper to create a row, and I'm going to pass it along in an object list. To append, so adding information to a table without deleting the previous records, I'm going to use fill array. I'm going to fill up the table. Why is it called array? Maybe a pop quiz in between. Why is it called array? Because our definition here, this is of type array. So I'm going to fill up this array parameter with information. Well, what table is it? The table ID. What is the information I want to add in here? I'm going to fill it up with all of these rows. And how am I going to fill it up? What's the behavior? Well, the behavior should be partial. What does partial mean? Do not delete it, just add this information to the table. I'm not going to change any existing records, just going to add information to it. Imagine that you know this is the information. Maybe you receive information or you have requested from a database and you need to have a full copy. No matter what was in the table, just remove it, replace it with this information. You can do this with the option full. This will take the current records, so all the records that you have here, and ingest it in the table. Remove all the items that no longer match. When we have a look at the extended method, instead of using the object arrays, I can already use the helper row immediately. And again, I can use the table name because it's available in your protocol. So this makes it easy to read. What am I going to do? Well, please, protocol, do something for me. Use this orders table, fill it up without deleting anything. I'm going to append information, and this is the info you need to use. Same for overwriting the full table. Well, protocol, use this table, fill it up. I'm going to delete it. I'm not going to add a no delete here. So fill it up with all of the information that I have, and you will have overwritten all of your information. I've added a single row, and I have added multiple rows. I can append information, and I can overwrite all of the information there. Next step is looking at the delete. How do I delete something? Let's first go back perhaps to the example, so you will have an idea. Let me add information here. Deleting a record, the easiest way for a user is to just select your record and say, I'm going to delete this item. This means we're going to manipulate directly from the table. When we manipulate directly from the table, I need to know what row was selected by the user. So you can already have an idea, okay, I will have a quick action that will trigger on a row for this table. So let's have a look. Do we have a quick action that will trigger on the row? I have my button here. Let's have a quick look. We have our quick action, and it will check for this button. There could be multiple actions or buttons in your table. I'm going to trigger for each row that had a change. This is the row equal to true. This means I know what row was selected, and I will be able to delete that record. This is what I want. Let's have a look on the quick action itself. Very easy. I will know what row was selected. This is the protocol.row key. Pay attention. I need the row equal to true to know what row was selected. This is my primary key. So when I want to delete something, I will just very simply pass along that primary key to delete the row. I'm here using the extended, but again, you can use a standard as well. Then you need to pass along the table parameter ID. Very simple, just adding or deleting one record, adding your row equal to true, get the row key, and you can delete that one specific record. Now, another means of deleting, let's jump ahead, was deleting the entire table. So you could say, okay, I'm going to have a quick action that will maybe go over all of the rows, all of the existing items, and delete all of them. So we could reuse this delete row and pass along all the primary keys. Well, there's an easier way to delete your entire table. Remember, a table is a parameter. Let's go back to our table. A bit of scrolling here. Our table is a parameter. There are actions that we can define in our XML to clear parameters. Table is a parameter. Clear action, well, when we want to delete an entire table, let's go to the button that does this. I will use a trigger. The trigger will run an action, and the action will clear the parameter. When we're talking about tables, clearing a parameter is enough to clear it internally, in memory, and also on display. When we would be clearing a standalone parameter, you will need a clear and a clear on display. But in this case, it's very easy to remove everything from that table with just one action. I will clear the parameter, my table. Remove everything. So no need to jump to another process as well scripting to run some C# code, you can all do this from within your protocol. Now I jumped ahead. Let's go back to the example. I jumped ahead to clearing all because this feature that we added was something in between. I don't want to clear all of the records, and it's not just one record. I want to remove all the records of a specific article. So I will need to add some logic. I will need to think about what I'm doing. Let's go to the code itself. It's again in my quick action 10. I'm going to delete articles. Let's go to the method itself. Now what I would like to do is search for all of the articles which are using the name that I have selected. So I'm going to get cells by value. Now this is not a standard definition. This is something I have created. This is my logic. You can make extensions yourself. So let's go and jump to this extension to have a look what it looks like. It's going to retrieve all of the data from the table. It's not really all of the table, all of the data that I require. Now to make this search, what I need is I need the primary key so I can know what I have to delete, and I need to know the article's name. So I'm going to retrieve via a get column mechanism. So this is getting columns. I'm going to retrieve the primary key and the article. I'm going to pass it along to this method. This is my custom method. And this will basically just search for all of the rows that use this specific article. Take your time, have a look at this code. It's not that difficult, but it's your custom code to search something. So the purpose of this method, it's going to retrieve all my primary keys for, maybe I selected coffee, then it will search all the records that are using coffee. So in here, I will have a list of all the primary keys, so I can, again, just delete all of those items. When I'm using the standards, I've mentioned it before, I'm going to pass along the table. This is a table where I want to do some manipulation on. Well, I want to delete a row. Well, what row? Well, all of these rows. With the extended, I don't need to pass along the table parameter ID. I can just say, well, hey, protocol for this table, delete row. Well, what row? Well, all of these rows. So this is staying the same thing. Now, the structure, you have seen I've been jumping around and I made some extension methods. You can find them or you can easily see them as shared information. So perhaps have a look here. Let's go up. Shared information or shared functionality, I can reuse that piece of code like I have shown here. Maybe I want to reuse this somewhere else. I can add this to a quick action 1 or a precompiled quick action. What's a precompiled quick action? I've already explained the purpose. It will make sure that I have this code available. Well, before or at startup, it will build this piece of code and you can consider it as your DLL. Your personal, it's open source, you can edit it, your personal DLL. It's a piece of shared information for this specific development. It's used by your element running this protocol. So let's open it up, have a quick look. Here we can see that I have my protocol helper where I create an extension, so I can use protocol.get cells by value, which is using my logic. Well, I have also created an extra namespace to help me out with the orders that I'm doing. I've called it order helper. You can see all of my articles here. The user request will have chosen this in a specific way, so it will map with my buttons and the selection that I can create. Let's just have a quick look. I have here, for instance, my requests that I can do. Add an article, one of each. Well, you can find them here as well. Add an article, one of each. And then I had a separate button to delete articles. Well, to make sure I can easily create this enumeration, I have chosen to have the delete button. I believe it's this one. Yes, I have chosen this to be value 3. So you could say, let's use the standard value 1, but then I might need to redo or create an extra enumeration and map it. So to make it very easy in my code, I have updated, make sure that this is value 3. So I have my 3 possibilities available in one user request. Same for the articles. I have T, 1, 2, 3. I will have a list of discretes. This is my T. Internally, the value will be 1, so it's easily mappable with my logic itself. Let's go up. You can see this here. I have my helper, my user request. Well, I will use the information of the parameter that selected this. So I had 2 different buttons. I will translate this to my request, and then based on this, I can know what I have to do. Think about your structure, your design of your code, and it will help you also to define your parameters. Quick summary. We have here adding one item. I can choose between the standard protocol or the extended. It does the same thing. Standard makes it easier for you to code, to write your manipulation as well. We can verify if something exists. We can add a row. We can update that row or use the extended to just update and add it if it doesn't exist. We can set a list of items. For instance, filling up the array or filling up your table, filling up the array without deleting anything, which is partial, or I'm going to overwrite it, which is the full. You can do the same thing with the extended. In this case, it would be filling it up without deleting or simply filling it up. Deleting, I can delete a single row. For this, I can have a button in my table. I will click it. I will know what row was selected by using the row equal to true option. Let's go back down. We have the row equal to true here. I will know this is the row that I have selected, and I will simply delete it. And I can delete the entire table. I don't need to look up anything. I can simply clear the parameter. So I don't need any quick actions. And when I want to do my own logic, I've already shown you, I can make my own methods or extended methods to look something up, get information from the table. I didn't really highlight this. This is getting information from the table. There's a snippet available as well to do this, so no need to know this by heart. And I can create my own logic. In this case, I'm going to compare a specific value with what I have passed along. So when I selected coffee, I will compare the value from my table, from my column, with coffee. And if this is matching, I will return my primary key. This is for my need. This wraps it up for the manipulation of tables. So we have seen quite some basic functionality. Of course, you can extend it. Always have a look in our developer's guide. It's nice and clearly explained in there as well. This practical example will be made available on our community. So have a look, try it out yourself. You don't need any equipment for this. You can just run it on your machine and play around with it.